Welcome to Eyes on Books. I'm here with Fran Conroy, and we're talking
Good
about
morning.
a book called A Small Life by a local author, Roxanne Kind, lives here in Laguna Woods Village, and we'll be meeting her before the program is over. Fran, what did you think about the name? I didn't particularly like it. How about you?
You know, when I saw the title, I said, it doesn't do much. But when I opened up the book and I started to read the first couple chapters, not even chapters, a couple of pages,
Right.
I said, you know what? This is a good book with the wrong title. That's how I felt.
I agree.
Yeah?
I couldn't put it down. It's definitely a page turner. Lots of interesting people in there to meet, and lots of story.
Right. Well, I think the character description build-up was extremely precise, and it drew you into the conversation more than anything else.
Right.
You felt you were actually witnessing what was going on. So I'm really curious to find out if that's her first book.
It is her first book.
Yeah,
yes.
because it's very well written.
It is. It seems from reading it like she's a well experienced author. It's hard to believe that this is her first book. She may have written other things. We'll have to find out when we talk with her later.
Yeah, and the characters, but the characters in the book, that's why it's such a deceiving title, A Small Life. It can relate to every day, even though it took place after World War II.
Right. Took place in the nation of Chile.
Right.
A nation I know very little about, but you've been there.
Yeah, a few times. And the small towns do rely upon the church. And it starts off, you know, with this couple making an extremely hard decision.
Right.
And having to go to the church in the middle of the night. And that kind of draws you into the story. I don't want to tell anybody too much because it'll ruin the story.
They go to the church in the middle of the night to drop off a baby.
Well, I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to tell them that.
That's on the first page, basically.
Yeah.
And she is the main character of the book. We follow her for years, and her adventure starting off as an orphan, basically, and taken in by the church. And so we learn a lot about the culture there, not in a kind of a preachy way, but we learn about the prejudice of the wealthier people against the peasants.
And to this day, they have a small middle class, but still, when I was down in Chile, they said, well, you don't go to this area to eat, you stay in this area. It's a better area, you'll get better food than you will in this area. And that really surprised me. But I found the people of Chile being extremely warm. But what surprised me is the effect that this child had on so many people at different phases of her life.
Yeah.
And they weren't small.
No.
Like it says small life. They were not small changes.
No. Well,
they were extreme changes.
The second person we meet, after we meet the baby is accompanied with a note that says her name is Lilia. And we meet a nun, a young nun, who basically falls in love with a baby, and it sort of becomes her life to take care of this baby. Her name is Agatha, so basically the book is pretty much about the two of them with a whole lot of other people whose lives interface with these two.
Well, besides the interfacing with the nun and the child, they realize the child is special.
Yeah.
And they kind of favored her in a lot of ways.
Right.
And when the time comes that the church is no longer allowed to accept these orphans, and they were going to institutions, was a big turning point in the book.
Yeah.
It was a very big turning point.
Yeah, one of the themes in the church, I mean, in the book, was kind of the changing role of the church in Latin American culture, and the government. And we meet a social worker, Gertrudis Alvarez, and she is charged with taking the baby, the young girl now, out of the convent and placing it in a home.
Yeah.
And that met limited success because they didn't have enough homes.
Right. They had too many children, and most of the children were girls that they gave up. And a lot of these girls stayed as nuns.
Yeah.
That's the only life they knew because they were raised that way.
Right.
But I think as the young nun matures, the one from Spain,
Right.
Agatha, she realizes that this is not her calling after all the years that she was in the convent.
Right.
And I don't want to give away too much of this book, and it seems like we are, you know? But the thing is that small child that came made a drastic change on everybody that she touched during her lifetime.
Yeah. Well, Agatha, the nun, had sort of built her life around taking care of this baby. And then when the baby was removed, she was kind of lost. She didn't know where she was and who she was. And so we see her life drastically changed, goes into, kind of depression. And you can really understand that. And meanwhile, the baby is placed with, what would you say?
I'd say an older couple that wanted somebody
Well, first of all, though, a lower class couple, a farmer couple.
Oh, yeah.
And
right.
Yeah. And she
was just like a wild child. They did not control her. She did whatever she wanted, went wherever she wanted.
And the social worker felt that she was in danger, so they took her away.
Right.
And placed her with a very old and very rich.
Yes, that's the key story, because the money went to the government.
Yeah.
And that helped strengthen the government.
Yeah.
And she worked for the government.
Yeah.
So it was almost like a payoff. I'll give you this much money for you to give me this child, this young child. Mm-hmm. So it was difficult, but the child was happier on the farm.
At least to start with.
For a long time.
Yeah.
For a long time, because she had her freedom.
Yeah.
And she could feel the positive vibrations around her.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. That helped her become creative. And then when she went with the older couple, they expanded on that in a way, because they gave her things that this farmer could not do to further her education.
They gave her a first-rate education.
Right.
They sent her to a boarding school.
Right.
Where she learned everything you're supposed to learn as a young lady, and she found out even there was some prejudice against her, because they felt like a lot of people felt like, because she was probably born out of wedlock. We don't really know, but
we do know she wasn't born out of wedlock.
Well, at this point we don't know in the story, but anyway, it's assumed that she was born out of wedlock, and therefore that she was basically cursed. So there was prejudice against her for that reason, that she had been an orphan. Well, we're going to reset the set here and welcome in our author, and so we can ask her for clarification on some of these points. So
Yeah, I'm curious to see what she has to say, and if any of this related to her life or her family's life after World War II.
Why Chile? Why this time period? And, and how does she happen to be in Laguna Woods Village?
Right, that'd be great. So I'm looking forward to seeing Roxanne.
She'll be with us in just a moment.
Okay. Hi, welcome back. We have Roxanne Kind, who wrote A Small Life, and we're going to be asking her a few questions relating to her new book.
Right. Well, Roxanne, both of us agreed, as we were talking earlier, that a book seems much too well written to be your first writing effort. So explain that.
Thank you. I've been told that it's a pretty decent book for a first-time novelist, and I guess the kind of person I am, I just jump into something and then I learn as I go. So it took me a few years to write it. It was really an homage to my mother, who the character Lilia is based on, and my mom had passed away. And I missed her so much, and she was such a special person that I just wanted to write about her. I was afraid I was going to forget a lot of the things she told me.
Oh. So which character represented your mother?
Lilia.
Lilia,
the baby.
Really?
Now,
oh my goodness.
Right. Now, was your mother from Spain, or was she from Italy?
My mother is from Chile.
Oh, okay.
Where the baby is abandoned.
Right.
She did not know where she came from ever.
Wow.
She was pretty much like Lilia. She found herself different places, foster home and then adoption. And the thing about my mom was that she was very gifted. She was a pianist. She was also an artist. In fact, this is a part of her painting, the cover of her book. And it's much bigger painting, and it's her country, which she loves so much, Chile. The rivers, the Andes.
Oh, yes.
This represents the Maipo Valley.
Oh,
where
it's beautiful there.
It's beautiful there. And that's where she remembers being a foster child. And this painting originally had, it was me and my sister in a little boat, because she loved to just paint, her family, and it was not for sale or anything, it's just her love. And the graphic designer who did my book took one of the children out, because there is a scene in the book where Lilia wades into the water, and I won't say more because I don't want to spoil anything.
No, I don't want you to.
Yes.
But my biggest thing is, who picked out the title? The title to us, to both of us, was a turnoff.
It was a turnoff for me. It was my working title. But the more I wrote the book, the more it made sense to me.
Really? Because I don't think anything in there is small. Everything has so much love and growth to it. Both in Lilia, both in Agata, both in even the social worker.
Yes, my three protagonists.
Yes. Their growth is unbelievable, and it's not small at all.
It's not.
But the title, don't let the title people turn you off. This book is a page turner from the beginning to the end, and the end has a twist, and we're not even going there.
No.
Thank you.
It was very good. It was a very unexpected ending.
Thank you so much. I'd like to say something more about A Small Life, and I'm going to try to be very careful not to give anything away, but the beginning of the book starts with a small life. And then somewhere towards the end of the book, there is a very small few sentences where Agatha talks to a Holocaust survivor, and he is very depressed because no need to explain that. And she tries to bring in that he's important. Even the the dandelion that's by their feet where they're sitting. Even that small life has got God in it, and everything is so
Has
important.
meaning.
And it's a dandelion is as beautiful as a rose. And so that's why I kept a small life, and I had no intention of keeping it, but it made sense to me. And the social worker and the nun, these are, you know, people who are not very big people, but they're powerful people.
Right. Very
And that's
powerful.
why it's kind of it kind of stayed with me.
Oh, okay.
Did you happen to set it time-wise during and just after World War II?
Yes. Before 1929 to 1949. And I placed it there because that was my mother's growing
Time
up.
period.
You know, it was Lilia's time.
It's a very turbulent time in
Yes.
the world, which makes for good stories, I guess.
Yes. I should also mention that some of of course, this is a fiction,
Right.
and a lot of it is made up because I never knew where my mom came from. So, you know, all that's in the book is all my imagination.
Right, right.
And
I hope the ending isn't what happened to your mom.
it isn't, but
Careful.
no,
the
that's all I'm
character,
saying.
yeah, the character Enzo and his flashback
Yes.
is partly true. My father was captured by the Nazis when Italy and Germany were on the same side, but when Germany turned its back, or Italy turned its back on Germany,
yeah.
there was something called the Gothic line, and it depends from the north where the Germans were, and that was the mark, the Gothic line, and my father was caught with his troop on the other side of the Gothic line. That is true. And all I know is I have a photograph of the people that were with my father, all young Italian men. And my father was the only one that survived. And he would never tell us what happened. So I made that part up. Why did my father live and everybody else in that photograph did not live? So my mind, I had to have answers.
Right.
I made myself answers, and that's why it's in this book. So, you know, it's really an homage to the people I love and how much I miss them. And I wanted my daughter, and now she has a baby, which she named after my mother. Her real name was Eliana. And it was serendipitous because this book was supposed to come out in September, and that's when my granddaughter was born, but through delay, it didn't come through out publicly till December, even though it says in there it's September. But it was like my granddaughter and my mother. It's almost like a circle. And now, you know, if I'm not here, even though this isn't completely true, she has the essence of who her great-grandmother was and her great-grandfather. And so, you know, it's really a gift, I think, for
gift to
her.
your
And when I
family.
wrote it, I didn't really think about that, but that's what it is.
Have you written, you know, short stories or other
You know,
things
I do
before?
like to write short stories, and I started taking an emeritus class because, you know, I'm an emeritus teacher. I teach acting. And I started taking creative writing classes because I just love to write. Actors love to write. And somebody said, oh, you should, you know, submit one of your stories. And the very first story that I submitted was to the Missouri Press. They have a journal that's about as big as this, and it's only for military people who write or draw or something about their experience. And I sent them my military experience, which was my son going into the Marine Corps. And it was the night that it was his birthday. He turned, you know, 18 on June 3rd. And on June 3rd, 2:30 a.m. in the morning, I delivered him at the Mission Viejo Marines Depot. And I wrote that. And I said, I'm going to submit it to them, even though I'm not military. And they actually published it. It's called Born to Be. And I was the last story, the personal essay about the pain I felt about my son. It was called What If? Like, what if, you know, what could possibly happen? And I was shocked that the first story I sent out was published.
Wow.
And then the next thing I decided to do is write a novel. And I found an agent who loved my book. And and he said, I'm going to get this out for you. His name is Stan Corwin, and I give him credit in the book. And he died during COVID. And you read that, and I could not get this out, with one of the big publishing houses. I think he might have done it. And everyone said to me, your book we really love. We want you to get an agent and push it the normal way, not like through this vanity press that, is sort of a hybrid press. They say they choose what they love. I hope that's true. But I could not wait because it is so difficult for people who are unknowns, who write their first book to get any attention from any agent. And when Stanley Corwin died, I could not wait anymore. I had to get this book out into the universe, and I had to move on.
Now, this isn't self-published, though.
Well, it's almost self-published. I went through a company called Citrine, which is a publishing company, which the publisher came from the, what is that, Soup for the Soul, Chicken Soup for the Soul?
Yes.
Yeah, she came from there, and she started her own company, and she said, I am not taking every person that wants to publish the way Amazon does.
Right.
You can put anything out there. They're very selective. And I hope that's true. I didn't test them, and they loved my book. They took it, and they helped me format it and all that. But it's really up to me to push the book.
I want to say, for the benefit of men, that even though this book is about two women, basically, it's not chick flick. Chick
you.
lit.
It isn't.
It's I really enjoyed it, and there are elements of the story that involve men, and it's not something that women would find exclusively theirs or something like that.
Thank you. And this has been an argument between me and my husband. He's saying, "Oh, I love your book, but I think it's for women." And
No, it's not.
And I'm telling him, no. I mean, I've read War and Peace, so let's not label it there, because this is really about life and hope, and it's also about racism, and it's about classism, which is so prevalent in other countries. You know, and so I thank you for that.
And the men in it had a strong role from delivering the baby and to help raise the baby with the adopted family and everything. The man did play an important part in this. And then with Enzo, that was also a very important part.
Right.
And the fishermen.
Yes. And we know why, and I can't say we don't know why.
No.
We don't know their names.
No.
Right.
You have to read the book, people. Believe me. It took me 3 hours one night, and I finished it the next day. It's a fast read.
No,
it's a good read.
It is.
It flows. It's well worth reading.
Like many,
and it's uplifting. It's
like many
uplifting
novels
too.
these days, you give us a little bit of story in a short chapter, and then the next chapter takes us with another character or another element of the story, and these stories all stand on their own. Each chapter stands on its own as being interesting and significant, but then they all weave together to tell the larger story. So,
and I didn't find it wordy. I didn't find it where you keep repeating. Like a lot of the stories, they keep repeating and repeating, and you say, "Listen, they get paid by the word? Let's get these words out of there and get right to the story." This gets right to the story. So I felt it was an easy read, a good read, enjoyable, and it makes you stop and think. Has the world really changed that much?
now that you have your magnum opus in front of you here, what's next?
There is something else I'm working on.
Wonderful.
I just love writing. It is so. I go into a zone, and hours go by, and I don't even realize where I've been. I've been in this imaginary world, and I love being there. I must be like the original Walter Mitty, because I love to be in my fantasy life. And as an actor, and I've read so many plays and so many books, and you know, it's the same thing like when I read. And I'm also a reading teacher, by the way. So I'm immersed in literature, and you know, I know I started late writing, but I wish I found it sooner.
You know, it's hard to find yourself. Yeah, a lot of people say it's hard to find themselves until the kids are gone.
Right.
They've retired from work. They have some time on their own, and they want to channel and do what they like.
Right.
And
right.
it does take a while, but
How long have
it's
you been in the
worthwhile.
village?
I have been working in the village ever since I got the job as the emeritus, but I live in Mission Viejo.
Oh, I see.
But I work in Clubhouse 5 as the scene study acting teacher, and I belong to about 6 clubs in the village, and I can't wait to one day move here because I will. And all of my friends are here, and I feel very much a part of this community.
Wonderful.
Well, that's great. Well, we appreciate you coming in today and speaking about your book. And folks, go out. It's wonderful. Read the book. You'll really enjoy it. Right, Tom?
I certainly enjoyed
I
it,
did too.
and had a hard time putting it down. I think it took me about parts of about 4 days to read. I assumed that I would read a little bit for a month, every day for a month, but I couldn't wait.
No, it was very good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
better than some of the TV shows on, you know, and you sit and you watch these series, and this is a great book, really. I really enjoyed it.
Let's bring reading back. We need to bring reading back.
Yeah.
Let's put away our cell phones and our computers and read again.
Right. Well,
right.
if we get authors like you, we probably would be reading.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming in and spending your time with us. And people, please try to get the book. It's great, A Small Life.
It's available how?
It's available through Amazon.
Okay. I guess that's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know. It's on
Everybody has it
Kindle, which
at
is
Amazon.
Right.
half the price of the book. So it's very affordable. Kindle
didn't
is
put
only
it in our library?
$9.99. I will put it in the library.
I think you should.
Yes.
I think you should. So these people that do not have a Kindle or don't want to buy or can't buy a book can go in and read it and enjoy it.
In
'Cause it
fact,
is
I
well
will do it
worthwhile.
today as I leave the studio because it was on my to-do list.
Okay. Well,
thank
thank you
you.
again.
Thank you, Roxanne, and we can't wait to see your next book, and I'm sure you can't wait either.
I can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Eyes on Books. We'll see you next month.